So I'm so excited to talk to you and have you on. Are you ready? Are you where you want to be? Are you feeling comfortable?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm on the internet. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, this is a famous last word.
Nothing. Open hearts, open minds. Okay.
Open hearts, open minds. Open up browsers.
Yep. Exactly.
What's up, everybody? It's Josh and Jess here with God Hates Unicorns, and thank you for bringing this up. And we're here with another very exciting, fantastic, and amazing round of bands and artists we like and support that aren't as good as God Hates Unicorns. And here with us today, we have one of my favorite people, Vlad Abacus. I probably said that wrong. I say everything wrong. Doesn't mean anything because I just don't know how to talk. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I think I'm the last person on the earth to do a podcast.
So you've never done a podcast?
No. Like I said, coming in here, I'm like, do I need software or something? Is there like a tool, an app or something? I need a microphone? What's going on?
You have to, it's like, to be on this podcast, you have to own this like very specific TV device. It's like this like little TV box from 1985. You have to download the Unicorn software. From there, you have to then get your credit card information out, of course.
Yep. I did all that.
Social security number, all that. So it seems like you did everything correctly.
Yeah, I don't know why you guys had me get all of those iTunes gift certificates number and input them all into that little TV box. That was a little bit odd, and I feel like it's, I spent a couple hours doing that. It's been hard work.
Well, it's the only way the software is going to work.
Speaking of which, we have our iTunes went up today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's pretty good. I wonder if it's because of that.
Probably.
Yeah, it's pretty much like Lawnmower Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what this podcast is, Lawnmower Man.
Okay,
well, no pressure there.
I didn't see that movie, but I know it's probably not good. So, but this podcast, it isn't Lawnmower Man, unless Lawnmower Man's awesome. Then it is. So Brian is here, and he is an author. He is an artist. He is this creative madman. This is nuts. Like every time because sometimes I know he doesn't go on the internet, but sometimes I go on the internet and I see the next thing that he's doing. And it's like, oh, well, could I have to change my britches again? That's amazing. So I hope that you uploaded those Amazon gift cards because I gotta, replenish my wardrobe. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes. So, Ryan O'Loughlin, the website and the internet handle personality is known as Vlad Abacus. And that's kind of a self-imposed curse. So that is the channel, that is the website, vladabacus.com, the sort of like the @ is at Vlad Abacus, where you find, I'm mainly, on Instagram. And the idea is that what we got going on, what we are selling is psychic karate. And all of the books are somehow related to the importance of why, you should have psychic karate in your life. And if you go to the website under the promise that you will learn about psychic karate. And as it exists right now, I'm about to reskin the whole website and kind of redo everything in more of a color scheme. But as of right now, you can spend a good couple hours clicking around on there, and you will never, ever even begin to understand what the hell psychic karate is. And I plan on keeping that up. So it's kind of like it's kind of a marketing pretense wrapped inside of a joke, wrapped inside of a marketing pretense. There's a lot of circular logic behind it. You know, all of the books so far have been monster stories, they're horror novels, and there's some kind of design there about how, you know, these things are going to get you. You're definitely going to die. You got to get some of that psychic karate. You got to go to the website, got to pre-order the fanny pack, you got to click on all the things, but you're probably still going to die.
Where's I need that fanny pack right now?
There is no fanny pack. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, then
Do you have supplements?
might as well die. Was that done?
Right? Yeah, I need diet pills and like all that shit. It's definitely kind of a take on the internet scam culture we find ourselves in over the past few years, where, you know, a lot of bullshit out there. Well, it seems like people like bullshit. I got something to sell, you know. So this then becomes a pretense for me to do whatever kind of little monster stories that I want to do, and at least with this project, I'm self-publishing the whole thing. You know, it's very, very hard for me to get a green light from someone if they don't know what's going to happen 2 or 3 books later, and I refuse to follow a lot of formulas. Probably the most intelligent thing that I can say about these books and why I'm doing them is I'm trying to do something different in terms of presentation. So when you read any kind of a book, if you're reading text, your brain, your visual cortex has to put that scene together. You have to do the work. When you read a comic book, it's a little bit different. As soon as you see a page or an image, your brain assembles all of it, whether you like it or not. And the text boxes and the dialogue bubbles, those are all there to inform what your brain is already assembling. What I try and do is write illustrated prose where the prose comes first. You have to form a picture in your mind. You have to do the own work. And then the pictures that are presented clash, conflict with, or deform that image that you have in your head. So it's sort of like a graphic novel in reverse. And all 3 of the books do that in their own way, where you're reading something and then you're kind of jarred or assaulted with an image that may or may not be relevant or may not seem relevant at the time. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the hook with what I want to do with most, if not all, of these books within the Psychic Karate line. Although my next few things are wildly going to be wildly different, but the monster books, that's kind of how I want to do them. And, you know, see if it works, see if it doesn't work. I'm a big believer in the idea that people can choose their own level of involvement. You know, I kind of want something free that people can go to. I want something that people can dig into, and I want people to be able to just pick and choose whatever book they want, like it or not like it, and then feel like, oh man, this is a whole series. I got to do the whole thing. You know, no, you don't. I've kind of designed them so you can be equally confused wherever you start. You know, and I'm a big believer in the idea, at least in horror stories. You know, people always tell writers, show, don't tell. Show your audience what's going on. Don't tell them. These people are all fools. Fools, I say. What about hide? So I love hiding little things in plain sight of people, and the idea of, you know, kind of tapping you on the back when you're not paying attention. So confusion becomes a weapon. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's also very experimental. So I can understand how one person would really vibe with one book and say the other one was unreadable. I can't deal with it. I hate it. You know, that's fine. Pick and choose. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's the basic, you know, premise and philosophy of what I'm doing primarily. But obviously, you know, over the past, about 5 months, I've kind of come out of a bit of a recovery period, and what everybody else has seen is not me doing any of this. You know, now I'm doing watercolors, I'm sketching live band performances, I'm doing all kinds of, you know, weird paintings and artworks related to what other people are doing. Part of what I need to be able to just kind of function as an artist and even tolerate social media, quite frankly, is to have a lot of other people that I can be fans of that I can kind of point fingers to and be inspired by. Because if not, I'm just going to stay in my hole.
I totally.
So obviously I've done a lot of that stuff over the past few months and will continue to do so. I think I've worked out a schedule where I can do that weird book stuff and still carve out the time to pull, what I'm calling little art stunts, or I'll go into a rock show and, sketch something or, do a picture, off the fly, something like that.
All right, she left. That's good.
This is an art stunt.
There's a good example. That was entirely spontaneous. So I think it was on your social media and my favorite comic book store in town, Phantom of the Attic, both at the same time are like, hey, there's this Heroinberg comic. And I'm like, well, okay. And you were doing live action promos of that character's going to be in. I'm like, well, cool, I'll go get one of them. Then I'm like, well, then what I'll do is I'll get Jess to sign it. And then I kind of said on the internet, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do something. I'm going to put a picture on the internet that makes people like maximum jealous. So that's where that pinup kind of came from, where like I'm going to do sort of like an old school Jack Kirby rendering of whoever this character is. And because she uses toxic gas, it's like, well, I just need one color of green and just blob that all over the place. There's your superpower. We're good. So stuff like that where I can, throw around some shout outs and get out of my own head. That's really, really important. And getting people to...
Oh, the sound went away. Hang on, wait. Time out.
On went.
Can you hear Josh?
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you guys. Your sound went away, Ryan.
Okay, yep. You hear me now?
Yes.
Right on. Yeah, I think the internet is attacking us. But I'm clear now?
Yes.
Got it. But yeah, stuff like that, I got to keep it spontaneous, but I try and space it out to the best of my ability. And go out, have a night out, get out of my own head, but still do something artistically that kind of, points a positive finger at what somebody else is doing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love being a part of the community and taking inspiration from others. And a funny story about Jess's comic book character, they didn't have actually her superpower until she showed up, and they were like, you know what, toxic gas.
Shut up.
That's it.
Although it could be. It's a believable story. Yeah, real quick. Sorry, I know I look terrible and everything looks bad behind me. I'm a little under the weather today, but that really has nothing to do with it. I'm always kind of wearing snowman PJ pants and not making my bed. So that's just how it is. But I just want to say you doing that is touching lives. I've been nearly in tears several times over these. I know you've done some band sketches, band watercolors and everything. And you're doing those live. You're sketching those live during the show in the no light, standing there. And they're so beautiful and they're so amazing. And I know every single band that you've done one for has been absolutely out of their mind because it's such an honor.
Yeah, and I mean, not to be too heavy, but I mean, this came out of a place where about a year ago, very fashionable during the pandemic, I had developed a crippling anxiety condition. It was getting to the point where I couldn't do any creative work, and it was getting to the point where I couldn't do any work at all. And I'm the type of person where I don't stop. Once I get going, I never, ever, ever stop. And, having to stop and slow down and take care of my health was pretty devastating. At the same point, I also have a degree in psychology. So once I knew that it was an anxiety problem, forming a battle plan was pretty easy. But one thing that I stumbled upon was about a 5-point battle plan. But one of those points is that what we think of as the Impressionist painters, they were doing their work in a time period where the technology with paints was changing and kind of evolving, and it was getting a little bit better, but the studio environment for these painters was pretty toxic, and it didn't have any natural light. So the idea was to get out in the natural light and actually paint nature as you experience it. But I really believe that secretly a lot of these folks, they were literally like huffing their own terpenoids all day. Like they had to get out of a toxic environment. And I certainly didn't invent this. The concept of what people call urban sketching or plein air painting really blew up over the pandemic, where people need to get out of the house. They still need to stay away from people. So, okay, do a little water sketch of a happy little tree over there.
Right.
So I started to do this structurally. I have a whole bunch of little watercolor paintings that I did. And I kind of like showed them on my personal Facebook. I haven't shown them on the Instagram or anything like that, because I'm like, this is going to confuse the hell out of people. Why am I painting a happy little tree? And as I made that recovery, at that point I had caught the bug. I'm like, I am not going to stop doing this. And what you're doing is confronting a lot of stress and anxiety where, your light source is moving across the sky. People are bumping into you. People are saying hi, things like that. I was the type of kid where I got in trouble for drawing the Ninja Turtle in school. The idea of someone watching me draw is a problem, or was. You know what I mean? Now it's I completely worked that out through this kind of like intensive behavioral modification, but I've really stepped it up. Now I'm in the pit of a rock show. I'm wearing this little neck light on so I can see what I'm doing. People are literally bumping in. Like I haven't done a hardcore show yet. I want to see if I can do a hardcore show, get punched in the side of the head, and still get one of these sketches done. You know what I mean? So that appears on paper to be maximum stress, and this is what I do to relax. It's definitely a little bit odd, but it works.
I love it. And I mean, everybody else loves it too. Like, from art, and I totally get what you're saying, makes so much sense. And I get what you're saying. Like, from the outside perspective, it's like, this is the craziest thing on earth. I can't believe he's pulling this off. I can't believe he's doing this. Holy shit.
Yep, I've tried to research it. There have been artists that'll go to a jazz bar and sit down and do a little something of somebody performing. I don't know of anybody just standing up in the pit of a show doing this, but I've kind of figured out a method where it's not as devilish as it looks, because I'm only doing the ink there and not playing with the watercolor. I'll go home and play with the watercolor.
Can you imagine? That would be. Now that's a challenge. A standing watercolor.
I tried it.
Did you?
It didn't work out very well, because you're waiting for it to dry.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, really slows everything down, where you've got to be reacting to what everybody's doing. So grabbing a good impression of what somebody's doing and watercoloring it, next day over morning coffee works way better. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the little method I follow, and it seems to work pretty well. Because in every instance that I've done one of these, I've only done one band, except that a month and a half ago when Action Camp had their record release, and there were 4 bands there, and I did all 4 bands. So that was a bit much, but it was a lot of fun. Like, I'm like, okay, if I can do that, I can kind of do anything. Obviously, I don't want to do multiples in one sitting, but like, it's somehow possible. You
have your superpowers. You use them for good.
I try to. I kind of tell people that what I do artistically, I think of it as a weapon. And if it's a perfect weapon, no innocent person ever gets hurt. You can take all the assholes off the battlefield and never harm a hair on anyone's head. You just got to know how to apply the weapon and what it is you're fighting. So I think of some of the things I do is a kind of vehicle for improvement, or a vehicle for some kind of motivating inspiration. But I've been doing horror for 4 years, so now this part of what I do, which really doesn't have anything to do with the books, I think there's quite a few people, probably 75% of the people in the bands that I've interacted with, I don't think they know that I'm selling books. Because when I'm there, I'm on break.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's about getting that impression and seeing something. And even afterwards, if I post about it, I'll post a shout out to the band, try and, link people to their website or their Bandcamp or whatever. And I am sincere in what I'm saying about these bands. So it definitely works as kind of like a fun, cool thing to talk about, especially in the social media space. I don't like the idea of, look at what I did now, look at what I did now, look at me, look at me, look at what I just drew, look at what I just drew. Yeah. It becomes exhausting for anybody.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
At least when you're looping other people in. That's what, what I try to do is, I'm just like, look what everybody else is doing. You can also see what I'm doing, but please look at everybody else. For the love, they're doing so much.
Yeah, I've been telling a lot of people that, my last horror book was about the toxic influence of social media, and I tell people a lot of the times I reject the notion of the attention economy. Mm-hmm. The idea that we need to maximize some followers or this or that or the other thing. A lot of that is a scam. A lot of that is basically just a way to harass your friends. I believe in the notion of the enthusiasm economy. If you're doing something to generate enthusiasm, not just about your stuff, everybody else's stuff, that becomes so infectious. You ain't going to have problems selling books or records or whatever. If you can generate enough enthusiasm, that goes a lot farther than, well, how many likes did I get by doing that thing?
Right, exactly.
That's all a scam anyways.
It is. It does though. I buy into it. Like if I post something that I'm really proud of and it gets 2 likes, I'm like, oh, I'm so bad. And it's so silly because it's not how life works.
Well, it's a bad video game. It's a video game with a paywall. You can spend money and boost it.
Right.
And here's how it works. If you guys are friends with me on the Facebook, that post is just going to keep harassing you and bothering you until you click the thing and pre-order the goddamn fanny pack. And it's like your friends already know what you're doing. So to just harass a large number of them over and over and over again, it's a scam. That's not advertising. That's harassment.
Mm-hmm.
They should buy a goddamn fanny pack.
Exactly.
Then it'll go away.
I will buy that fanny pack. I want it.
I really want to generate a lot of enthusiasm in the idea of a Vlad Abacus brand fanny pack and just never deliver. Just keep hyping it. I would boost a post on that. I'm thinking about making a mock fanny pack, and then sort of like a QVC type. It's on a little pedestal and all that, and then spend social media money to boost it.
Great, that would be so good.
Yeah,
make
fanny pack looks like shit.
We'll get a few, and me and Jessica wear them out, and people will see hey, you can get these Vlad fanny packs.
Yeah, model them.
They'll never be available though.
Yeah, exactly. I really like the idea of it being this constant pre-order that you're really chasing the dragon on hearing about what this thing is.
Do I have to censor all of this from this podcast? Because this is a brilliant idea and I want you to do it.
Well, hell, you guys should do it too. Take it and run with it. It's hilarious because, too often that there's this weird feedback loop that we're seeing on these social medias. And it's very, very kind of repetitive and kind of annoying the way this algorithm this algorithm thinks that it's working, especially for creatives who are trying to do something. Some of us are just trying to network. For me, I don't think any big opportunities are going to come from me being in the social media space other than just connecting with people and doing some shout outs. Aside from books, I'm in the social media space. I'm not even selling books. I'm selling me. And if people can figure out how to like a weird 45-year-old dude who lives alone, white dude who lives like a serial killer and just writes horror novels, how do you like that guy? Because if I can figure out that equation, the books will be a lot easier to deal with. Exactly.
It's back to fanny packs.
Who cares about the damn books? You got to get that damn fanny pack. We should start a GoFundMe to be able to pre-order the fanny packs. With some like a $10,000 milestone limit on it or something. We're going to the greatest, the best sweatshop in Southeast Asia to get this done. We need like $20,000 to model it.
What if you hit it? What if you hit the I don't know. I can't get over it. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
when you get $10,000, you're making fanny packs.
Yeah, then you have to. You can
Yep.
One golden fanny pack. I don't know. But I don't know. Serial killers are really in right now. I think that's already like, oh, you live like a serial killer by yourself? And you write books, like, okay, people are subscribing to that, first of all. But yeah,
right. That makes a good story, but at the same point, so long as it's not boring, I actually have to chop people up. You can't just live like it. Like, you got to do something super evil, to like get the eyeballs on you.
Let's see your
yeah, exactly. I always joke with people, like I always tell people, like, my perfect first date is, I'm going to take the lady home, but ain't nothing going to happen. I'm just going to show her around and say, listen, see, there's no kill room here. No torture dungeon, no kill room. Like, I do not have the space. Like, there's a bunch of nerd shit all over here, and that's all there is. And then, like, hopefully that goes well enough to get me onto a second date.
Is there no kill room because you don't have the space, is what you're saying?
Well, I mean, you could read into it that way. If I had a dungeon, I'd like to think it would be a torture or a sex dungeon. Being honest, though, I'd just fill it up with like pencils and shit. That's just kind of where I'm at. That's where my head's always at. It's like I'm one of those people where if you kind of get behind the curtain, I'm a lot more boring than my artwork might necessarily demonstrate. And I kind of like that. I'm trying to, kind of explain that to the world. When I was in college, I picked up the nickname Lurker. And I live in a co-op full of all these, students in UC Berkeley. And when I went in there, I was having a real tough time mentally. I was not in a good place. I didn't know anybody. And now I'm in an environment with 80 poets at any given time. And I hit it off wonderfully with these people. But part of it was they could read me, and they knew I was a people watcher. Where if you get me in a group bigger than about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 people, I go silent. I'll just sit there in the corner and watch people. I always have ever since I was a kid. And if people talk to me or bring me out of that corner, I'm perfectly fine. But otherwise I'll sit there for hours and just watch people. Always have. So they would joke with me. They're like, Ryan, what are you doing over in the corner? You're the hella lurking over there. It's creepy as hell. What are you doing? And they'd give me permission to be me, but they'd also give me permission to break out of that headspace and go over there and interact with them. And I'd always have a joke to respond with them and say, hey, most people lurk for murder. Most people lurk for larceny. Like, I'm a purist. I'm an enthusiast. I lurk for the pure joy of fucking lurking. And that's why you'll see if I do a watercolor or something like that, especially on my Instagram, I'll say, I did a little bit of light lurking today. Mm-hmm. Because if I am quiet and just there by myself, which is fine, now you get to see
Oh no, the internet is against us once again. I'm gonna just overdub this.
I killed so many people. They're in the basement right now. I'm the lurker. I'm on the news. Help me! Help me! We lost sound, Ryan.
Okay, here we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
So we overdubbed you.
Okay. Perfect. Well, you guys were doing your own voices and impressions while I was talking with my hands.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Probably whatever you said was more intelligent than what I said, so we're good.
No, it was not very good. We actually had a guy at work called the lurker. Not because he lurked in a corner and didn't talk to anybody, but he would lurk around and wait for you to be finished with your lunch and then ask if you could have any.
Well, that's kind of
And see, again, that's lurking for a specific purpose, right? You know, I'm a purist. I will lurk just for the pure joy of fucking lurking. You know, always have. So that behavior also lends itself well to like going out and doing watercolor sketches and weird stuff like that. I already know how to stand around, you know, for hours. You know, I already do that naturally. So that's not weird to me when I go out and do that kind of art stuff.
I love it. And everybody else loves it too. I mean, the world is impressed. Gina, are you working on anything right now? Like wait, real quick. You draw every day too. You make
Yes.
every single day. I wanted to bring that up. That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, yeah, I am working on a book, and every single day since June 1st, since I kind of emerged from my recovery period, I'll post a little story on my Instagram, and it disappears, and it's just a little pencil sketch. So I think I'm at 146 or 147 of these so far. I have these two tiny little sketchbooks that once I max this one out, I'll have a total of 160 of them. The next book that I'll do includes a lot of these little pencil art designs, and they're all kind of celebrating or explaining some aspect of the Psychic Karate books, the Psychic Karate characters, that type of thing. And that's about half the total book. The hook is, hey, if you like pencil art, come on in. Don't worry about it. There's no big story. There's, nothing bad's going to happen. You'll just come, see some fun pencil art. Doesn't matter if you know about the characters or not. Now, of course, I'm going to twist it into some kind of weird horror story. But, what I've been doing is just drawing these spontaneously, even when I'm going, like I blank my mind in about 10 or 15 minutes, they're done. So I'm going to have about 160 of those to stay with, as well as some other stuff, but it's really going to celebrate pencil art, just the pencil stuff. And that's really hard to reproduce and get right in black and white. So I'm kind of regretting it right now. Like the next month is me messing with all this stuff, but that's going to be my next thing. And then the thing after that is going to be a coloring book. And my intention is to put the adult back in adult coloring book. One of my monsters is a sex robot, that became self-aware and kind of, took over all the government internet servers and whatnot. And she wants to present the true story of what happened in these Psychic Karate books, but she quickly loses focus. She's a sex robot, and nobody can understand what she's saying. She's sort of speaking in code. So it's basically going to be a bunch of ridiculous pinup art that, again, twists itself into this bizarre horror story. We're like, what is this robot trying to do to us? That type of thing. So I think I'm going to do a series of coloring books with the gynoid sort of creatively in charge of whatever it is we see in those coloring books. And that's going to be her thing and her space,
I want to buy one and color it and give it to you. This is something that Ryan did too. He got our coloring book. And the thing that I really love about how you colored this book is that Bluth here You see at the beginning, he's like rather unscathed. He's doing fine.
Yep.
And just progressively, as time goes on, there's just more and more stuff that happens to him. And by the end of this, man, he is like in some rough shape. It's just
Yep.
the injuries keep piling up.
So when I went through that book, I'm like, I noticed that I could get away with, based on how everything was drawn, I'm like, I could do an Ash from the Evil Dead type thing, where they worked really, really hard to make sure that all of his battle damage was consistent.
Mhm.
You know, that you know where every scratch, cut, bruise, laceration came from, and they kept trying to reproduce that faithfully. So I'm like, wait a minute, that's a good way to do that coloring book. Is if you just focus on the battle damage first. You know, that kind of, makes it interesting in its own way across the whole thing. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to do. That was another idea of just kind of a stunt. Josh threw that my way. I'm like, okay, I'll just return that fully colored then. And you just figure it out as you go.
Yes. Oh, it was so cool. So we can't wait to see what you have next. And we're gonna tag Instagram, your website. What else do you want the world to know?
For the most part, I think that what I've been doing recently, like I said, with sort of focusing on a lot of other people and their kind of stuff, it's just really, really important for other people to realize that what I'm doing isn't actually all that extraordinary. It's just a shift in focus. And I think the best way we can really elevate ourselves is to carve out a little bit of time to stay focused and enthusiastic about what other people are doing. Even when I started, when I couldn't get a drawing done in a day or I couldn't get a page written in a day, I would promise myself that I would at least listen to an album, or watch a movie I haven't seen, or go to a local show or something like that. And working that into whatever your budget is, even if you're not a creative person, being able to get engaged in what other people in your community are doing, it's easier to stay motivated. And when you fall into a rut, it's a lot easier to get yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
I was sick for 10 months, everything just kind of stopped, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. And how do I get all my art going and all that? And it's like, well, I don't have the money to rent a blimp to every major city, and I don't believe in social media. So what do? Well, forget it. That's what I do. Just go out, be spontaneous, focus on other people. If you don't know how to help yourself, try and do something to help somebody else. I've always kind of believed in that, but sometimes you got to put in practice if you find yourself in a bad spot. So hopefully that is a large takeaway for people from what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and why am I carving out the time? If I'm busy doing book X or book Y, what am I doing at the rock show?
Right.
I can't not be there.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get that ball rolling in your head, it won't stop. Or even if it does, it's easier to get it rolling again. So hopefully people kind of take that away, and I want to present it as, oh yeah, I did this thing that looks very, very maybe impossible. It's not. You just kind of have to take the right steps and keep at it. So it's definitely a good next step for me, but I think it's a good next step for a lot of people, because most of us have been trapped inside our heads. Most of us have had to deal with anxiety. Most of us have had to deal with kind of a crippling disappointment, from the economy to the pandemic to everything else. And what I try and do is to forge weapons to fight back against that hopelessness and that disappointment. Doesn't always have to be a horror novel, but that's just what I like.
I love it. And we love you. You're so amazing. And I think that honestly, this is probably some of the best advice we've ever had on this show. Excuse me, I'm so coffee right now. But seriously, help others. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, for everybody. and you've very much touched and inspired me. And I can't thank you enough for being our friend. You better keep that up.
Well, thank you. You know, when I'm talking about the idea of enthusiasm, you know, there's a reason you guys were the first sketch I did. You know, I've seen you and Josh at work. I know what you're doing. You guys are enthusiasm generators. You understand the battle. You know, so I was very impressed seeing you guys at a couple of shows leading up to that sketch. I feel like it's very fitting that the first one that I got done right, I did one for Some Faith, but I tried to do the watercolor there, so it was very muddy. Like, I want to do another one for them. But the first one I feel like I got right was you guys, and very, very fitting. Because it's like, you know, if I'm on the battle.
Oh no.
If I'm on the battlefield and if I see God Hates Unicorns, that's all I care about, because they're the greatest band that ever lived, and if nothing else other than them matters in any way. And that's what I'm saying. I am trying.
Sounds about right.
Well, and this is so wonderful. Thank you so much for everything. I mean, you just keep doing what you're doing. You're incredible.
I intend to. It might look a little chaotic on the surface, but yeah, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And, you know, I want to be kind of you know, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to show up for yourself. So I need to make sure that I keep showing up for others.
That's the best advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody check them out. You're not going to be disappointed. My last thing I'm going to say is click on the GoFundMe, donate as much as you can, $20,000, and it'll be ours.
We're so close to our goal with that fanny pack. We're so close. It's going to have rhinestones and all that shit.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, it was great talking to you, Ryan, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. You know, I'll be somewhere very soon.
Good. We'll be somewhere seeing you. Bye.
Fantastic. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
All right.
Thank